I will leave the floor to the Slovenian judge at the Court of Justice of the European Union, Dr. Marko Ilešić. He has supported this project from the outset when we were applying for EU funding, and his support continued further once the application was approved. I am therefore honored that he is with us today and that he will sit in the expert panel of the first session. But firstly, he has kindly agreed to give us a short opening lecture. Mr. Judge, the floor is yours.
Vesel sem, da lahko spregovorim občinstvu prostornih pravne fakultete Univerze v Mariboru. Don't be afraid. Thank you for the earphones and the English, but I couldn't help not beginning my short speech in Slovenian, my mother tongue, in my native country. I had not a lot of opportunity to speak Slovenian in Luxembourg. But I continue in English. And what should I tell to you? Why the European law is important? That my task has been facilitated by works of my brother, Mirko Ilešić, who was professor at this faculty, and who started to introduce the ideas of the European Union audience, European communities, at the time, to a country like former Yugoslavia at the time. He wrote his first work on legal system of the European Economic Community in early 80s. It was the pioneer work for the territory of, let's say, southeastern Europe. And it was the time where the accession of Slovenia or Yugoslavia or any part of our Yugoslavia to the European Union was not to be foreseen. Why then is it important to study, to make research in European? I would like to share this question with you, and you'll have the opportunity to discuss it perhaps in the following 2 days. But let me start with 2 questions. Is a legal system like the European one inevitable harm, or does it bring anything good to the people? Not for us, we enjoy it because we live in this. You may remember the famous poem by Publius Ovidius Naso at the heart of this, written by him in his exile at Black Sea. Aurea prima setastetas querundice nullos ponte suasi He wrote about the golden era. The golden era where there was no law, no rules of law, and no judges. Illusion? Is it possible nowadays? I have read somewhere in the press, but perhaps it was a yellow press, that there are some smaller cities in Germany, in the Netherlands, where the people decided that there will be no traffic signs in the city. And the traffic functions. People agreed not to have any rules of law, and nevertheless the life is normal, so I've been told. Is it possible today? Unfortunately not. And the European law has been created with the idea that in order to avoid conflicts, which necessarily arise between people, there must be a coherent legal system and, of course, a judiciary. I will refer to a quotation pronounced by the first president of the Court of Justice, of the European Coal and Steel Community, Massimo Pilotti, Italian person, who quoted his compatriot Dante Alighieri, who wrote in his work, not in Divina Commedia, but in Monarchia, written in Latin, the following words: Ubique litigium esse potest, ubique judicium esse debet. Where there is a possibility to have a conflict, there must be a court, a judiciary. So the court was created in the time where there were no conflicts. And I've been told that somewhere that the life of judges at our court in the 50s was a very comfortable one. They have nothing to do. It's not like this today. You can live as a judge about it. So law is unfortunately here. But why should we discuss the European law issues, especially for the countries which are not yet members of the EU? This is the question I'd like to discuss with you. Is in the European law, of course, anything new? Or is there just a compilation of different rules of mostly technical nature? If you read the official journal of the European Union, you can find an enormous number of directives or regulations concerning regime of fisheries in the Atlantic Ocean or in other seas. A lot of rules concerning agricultural subsidies, and so on, so on. Very technical one. But did European law bring into the legal culture anything new, anything additional? We'll try to answer this question at the end. As the European law, as you all know, is a very extremely non-coherent system. There have been no general rules, legislative rules, but in this 60 some years, a lot of general principles of European law have been introduced. And our court, my court, of course, had a very important role in this development. But sometimes we can read that our court is an activist. And if you open the dictionary of English language, you find under the word activist, in italics written pejorative. Is it pejorative? I'm not sure about it, but I never secured it in European House. I would appreciate it. But of course, the court was compelled to fill the lacunes created by the absence of any general legislative rules of law at the European level. Every member country and candidate member country and third country has a constitution, has different codes in different fields, civil codes, criminal codes, and so on. There's nothing like this in the European Union. So the European Union law, including its interpretation by our court, had to be active, if not activists. And so, what's going on? There is a couple of general principles of law which do not necessarily exist in the national legal systems. And that's, I think, an important contribution of the European law to the general legal thinking. For example, the principle of proportionality, the principle of effectivity, the principle of judicial protection, and so on. These principles have been largely developed on the European level. What do we still find in this European law? New methods of interpretation. Our court had to face with other methods, had to invent, had to introduce other methods of legal thinking than it's usual in the member states. Of course, you are aware of the fact that the legal systems in the member states are extremely different. I wouldn't like to make a classification, but at least common law and civil law, the continental European law, differ a lot, not in detail, in its approach. So the European law had invented something new. And let us not forget, different mechanisms, different institutions which apply European law are composed of people who come from different legal cultures. Legal cultures meet in the European legislative institutions, in the European executive institutions, and of course in the European judiciary. There must be always a compromise, which is not easy to achieve. And another contribution of the European law, language, legal language. All 23 languages have the same role, at least theoretically, in the European Union. That brings us to a necessity to harmonize texts, legal texts of all kinds, legislation, judgments, which can be transposed in other languages. So the terminology has been developed in different languages according to the demand of the European law. And third, very important, people. There are no Europeans, there are just citizens of member states. We meet everywhere on different levels, and we must communicate to find a solution which would or could be satisfactory for the 28 member states. That's never the case, in fact, because it's impossible. But to a certain extent, we, all people involved in the juridical work at the European level, we try to do it in the best way. What's still going on, which is not common in the member states? There is a phenomenon which could be called the renaissance of private international law, contract process. The private international law was supposed to become less important with the different ways of unification, harmonization, unifying the European law. This didn't happen. The private international law becomes more and more important because never will all member states have unified rules concerning the basic fields of law, like civil law and criminal law. So the questions of international competence and of applicable law still remains very, very important. I'm not entering into the details of our difficulties to interpret the regulations like Brussels 1, Brussels 2A, and Rome 1 and Rome 2, but this is our everyday business. So, on the European law level, there are rules which do not exist in the member states. There is a new theory, perhaps sometimes expressed in a hidden way, that arises in the EU. The law thus has not only a technical value, everybody should apply it, but it contributes to better communication. It has, say, an important cultural and civilization. And let me now just mention 2 or 3 examples of fields where this process is to be seen. Let's see human rights. You know the legislative texts on it, from the different acts of the United Nations, the European Conventions on Human Rights, and the Charter of Human Rights of the European Union. They contain the same idea. Let us protect human rights. It's a very nice idea, which is not always respected in practice, but everybody says to respect them. What is the role of the European Union as to the human rights? This is a very, very delicate political question. Member states are not too enthusiastic to transfer their possibility, their role as guardian of human rights to the European Union, nor to the court in Strasbourg. But let's leave aside the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. As to the European Union, it has introduced a self-limitation. So, to enter into the difficult interpretation of the Article 51, paragraph 1 of the Charter of Human Rights, which has been interpreted several times by the Court of the European Union. We know the famous leading case of Albert Ransom from 2 years ago, but the European Union didn't want, was compelled not to interfere with the competencies of member states. So the interpretation of the Charter of Human Rights is something new, which is additional to the interpretation by national institutional assembly or other courts. Secondly, where a special development which does not exist or does not exist to that extent in member or non-member states, in other states in general. Internet changed everything. Brought somebody down. Yes, it did. It did, and it neglects the borders. It neglects the national legal systems. Is internet a value? I'm not sure about it, but everybody knows that the life is practically impossible without it, and that it interferes very deeply into the existing legal rules. I'm not again going to talk about the difficulties concerning the application of the Brussels or own regulations, which is very well known, but I just put a little bit more emphasis on the difficulties concerning the right to privacy, and concerning internet. Because, of course, everybody, everything is to be found, really everything on the internet, and you are very well informed about this. We feel it every day when we start, when we open the computer. But of course, the things changed. For example, I mentioned just 3 recent judgments of our court. This is the Digital Rights Ireland from April 2015, Google Spain from May 2014, and Schrems from 6th October last year, 2015. In all these cases, which differ, also the preliminary ruling references proposed by different courts, but the idea is the same. How far can this interference with private rights be limited by, again, the Charter, Articles 7 and 8 of the Charter, right to be, by simplifying it, right to be let alone. And the court found, or tried to find, a balance between the human right based on Article 11 of the Charter concerning the right to be informed and the mentioned rights of the person in Articles 7 and 8. There was, in the 3 cases, there was a fair endeavor to find this balance. Nevertheless, the court in the cases Digital Rights Ireland and Schrems invalidated 2 different acts of the European Union, and in the Google Spain case, the court interpreted an old directive from 95, too young perhaps to remember, but the internet was hardly known in that time. So we had to interpret an old legislative text in 2014, which was not very easy. And imagine the court, I can't avoid mentioning this because I have bad experiences concerning the understanding of the judgment in Google Spain. Everybody comments it. Yes, the Court of Justice in Luxembourg, they invented the so-called right to be forgotten. That's not the case. If you read the judgment thoroughly, you wouldn't find in the motivation of the judgment this expression. Yes, you will find it in the first part when we resume the allegations of the parties. But as to the motivation, there is not such a right. That means the court, yes, it interpreted the said directive in a certain way, but they didn't say anything about the right of the. That means that the importance of some judgments of our courts is in practice much higher higher than the court itself wanted. Every word counts, and that is also obviously a wish of member countries to have an instruction from Luxembourg. We are sometimes proud. The third field, just very shortly, the consumer protection area. This is one of the rare parts of civil law which has been harmonized at the EU level with numerous directives now based by common directive on consumer protection. But this is a highly sensitive area because member states, as you know, mostly have very old, very well-made, very often interpreted civil codes concerning contractual obligations, concerning extra-contractual relations. And of course, they will never refrain to use these deep pieces of legislation. Can you imagine that Germans would say, no, we are not going to apply our BGB, our Gesetzbuch anymore because there is European legislation. Or the same, the Italy with Codice Civile, or France with Code Civil, and so on. Everybody is very proud of its national civil law. And now there is European legislation which arises, which is not, as I repeat this word too often, of course, not coherent, and imposes to member state a certain interpretation. I can remember several cases, perhaps during these 2 days here in Maribor, you will discuss them there is a section on consumer protection and so on. But of course, our court has to, in fact, interpret the national civil code in a European way, which is not very welcome in member states. I use a very gentle word, not very welcome, because the reactions you create are sometimes not that gentle. But this is the fact. So the European law brings something not always in an ideal way. You can see, that there are several more or less academic approaches, attempts to create a civil code or common sales, European sales law and so on, but till now they failed, and we'll see in the next years, the next decades, whether it will succeed, whether we will achieve a general civil law in the European Union. So, as to different some selected fields where the European Union brought some new ideas independently of the law of member states. So, researching, discussing European law is not important only for direct application from member countries, but it's important to think of possibly different solutions. This time for anecdotes which happen sometimes. When a judge from a country arrives to Luxembourg and he thinks that his national law is the only important thing. You open your eyes. So I if I repeat my introductory question, whether European law brings something new. The question is highly rhetorical. Would you agree